Okay, so once you've got your home lab set up, it's time to well start playing with some stuff. In order to do so, though, you're going to need to know some of the fundamentals. So we're going to kick it off with our Kali virtual machine or any Linux virtual machine, and we're going to go over some of the stuff that we're going to be using in the future. So one of the first things you're going to hear us talking about are kernels. So in the context of Linux, the Linux kernel is the core component of the operating system. It manages system resources. It allows communication between hardware and software. It is responsible for key functions such as process management, memory management, device control, and system calls. And then you'll hear me referencing something called a shell. So the Linux shell, or a Linux shell, is a command line interpreter that provides a user interface for the Linux OS. It allows you, the user, to interact with the system by typing commands. Common shells include bash, zsh, and fish. So the top 10 commands we'll be using are ls, cd, pwd, cp, mv, rm, state-mod, ps, top, and grep. When we move over to our Windows system, we've got our Windows kernel, which again is the core of the Windows operating system. It handles hardware abstraction, process scheduling, memory management, and system calls. It provides essential services such as security, file system management, and device drivers. The Windows shell is a graphical user interface and a command line interface through which users can interact with the operating system. It includes your desktop environment, your taskbar, and other interactive components. We'll mostly be using Windows Terminal or Windows PowerShell. So PowerShell is an advanced command line shell and scripting language for automating tasks and managing the system. It offers more flexibility than the traditional command prompt and is designed for administrators. Some of your PowerShell commands would be like get dash help, get process, get service, set execution policy, restart computer, stop process new item, get event log, get content, and test connection. If you are using the Windows command prompt, you've got your dir, which lists files and directories, cd, copy, move, del, mkdir, mrdir, ipconfig, ping, and task list. For Mac OS, let's just move over to our Mac here. So for Mac OS, the kernel is called XNU. So X is not Unix in it, though. It's a hybrid kernel combining elements of the Mach microkernel and components from FreeBSD. It handles resource management, process scheduling, and system calls. The macOS shell, typically Flash or ZSH, is a command line interpreter that allows users to interact with the system by running commands and scripts. So very, very similar to your Linux ones being ls, cd, pwd, cp, mv, rm, chmod, open, defaults, and ps. So we're going to be starting off with our Linux, though. So ls. We can use lsl to list everything in here. ls, lah, clear. I use clear all the time. If you wanted to, you can do pwd, so path working directory, and then ls home Kali. And we'll list everything here, and it should be extremely similar to just ls because we're currently in our home directory. So ls list directory contents. Let's go cd, and then let's list what's in here, still at our home directory. So cd desktop. Let's list what's on our desktop. Let's change directory back to our home and list what's here, and then clear our screen. So cd being change directory changes the current directory to wherever you want. We're going to do one more cd here, var log, and then we're going to list everything in there. Then we're going to go ls lah, and we're going to clear cd and go back to our home directory. But let's get our path to working directory. Now let's cd back to our var log and go pwd path working directory. Changed. cd, do pwd, see? So print working directory prints the full path of the current directory. But what about if we want to copy something? Well, let's first create something. So let's go touch new document.txt. Let's ls to make sure it's here. What about if we want to copy it? So let's copy new document.txt to old. Let's go new document.txt.old. Ooh. I spelled document wrong. That's what happened here. Happens all the time. Let's go ls. Now we have two of them. Let's ls lah. There we go. So now we've just copied the file. What about if we wanted to copy new document.txt to desktop? Now new document.txt is on our desktop. Well, we don't really need new document.txt anymore. We don't really want our backup, new document.txt.old. Clear. Let's now list our directory. What about if we wanted to list a desktop? Well, we got new document on the desktop now. Let's move that back to new document txt. Let's move it back to home Kali. Whoops. Not new document. There we go. And now it's in there. Let's get rid of it. There we go, cleaned up. So what did we just do there? We used our copy. So CP. And then we used move. So move or rename files. So if we need to rename the file, we could just use move instead of copy, which created a backup. Touch. We're just making new files. Let's go script.sh. ls lah. So you can see the permissions here for it. Let's chmod 755 script.sh. So chmod changes the file permissions. So we set script.sh to be readable, writable, and executable by the owner, and readable and executable by others. We're now going to rm script.sh, clear, let's cd to desktop, clear, let's mkdir, so make directory files. Let's cd to files and touch new text.txt, touch new script.sh. Let's back up. It's ls. What's ls? LAH, our files directory now. Now we just don't want it. Let's try just removing it. Well, we can't remove it. It's a directory. What happens if we go rm r? Now we did. Can. And now we did. Let's ls, just make sure it's not there, and clear our screen some more. So now that we've demonstrated also removing an entire directory, let's display some system processes. Let's just type in ps. Oh, we got some system processes. What about if we want to watch? Well, now that's going to update every half a second. Let's just clear out of there with the Control-C key combination. That'll interrupt. What if we want to ps aux grep Apache? Well, there we go. So ps displays the current processes. With that command, we list all processes and filtered them so that they're only related to Apache. Now let's check our system resources by using top. Now this will give us an overview or a viewer of all the statistics of our system. So I'm just going to interrupt that again with Control-C and clear. Let's use grep a little bit more just so you can see how it all works. So let's go grep error var log sys log. Oh, no such file. Var log sys log. No, var log. Nothing in there. Let's cat var log sys stat. No, it's a directory, that's why we can't. Touch. Now let's just go nano. Log.txt. Ah. So what grep does is it searches text using patterns. So in that case, well, searched for the word error. Really useful. Excuse me. Very, very useful whenever you're searching through logs or other files trying to figure stuff out. That's going to be it for our That's really useful for whenever we're searching through logs, firewall logs, and so on. Next we're going to use is our good old Windows box here. And as always, it absolutely glitches out. Okay, so let's try this again before anything glitches out on us. So let's try get help, get process. Let's see what happens here. So get help provides help for commandlets. This one displays help information for the get process commandlet. So let's just clear our screen there. The next one we're going to do is actually get process, which displays running processes. So we're going to go get process where object well, let's close that out and see what happens. So what that does is it lists all process using more than 100 CPU cycles. We can always drop that down a bit, and let's go 50. Let's drop that down a bit. Let's try 5. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to use the get service command. So get service, which lists system services. And then we're going to go where object status is equal to running, and see our running processes. Assuming I typed everything incorrectly, we should get a list of all. I clearly typed in something wrong. So we'll let that run for a second and see where I mistyped. Interrupt. Ah. You guys know what I forgot? I forgot the underscore. So this gives us all our running processes. The next thing we want to do is set our execution policy. So we can do set execution policy remote signed get execution policy, and then we're going to go set execution policy signed. Whoops. Set execution policy all signed. We can also change our scope. in order to keep the current user, the local machine, user policy, machine policy, and so on. The next one we're going to do is not our restart computer because we're not ready for that. But if you want to have the computer restart, we can always force it. So restart dash computers, restart the system, restarts the computer immediately, forcing all applications to close. With our set execution policy remote signed, setting it to remote signed allows execution of scripts downloaded from the internet if they are signed. So just a remote person has signed it. If it's not signed, you're still going to run into some errors. And you're going to want to change the policy. You'll want to set it, the execution policy, to unrestricted. We can always stop processes too. So let's just open up Notepad. Stop process name Notepad. And that'll stop the process. So stop process terminates the running process, and you can kill it by name. If we wanted to, we can also go new item path C temp new file .txt item type file. Well, we would probably need a directory there. If we don't have a temp directory, we can't exactly save anything there. We've got our get. Okay, so new item will create a new file or directory. Creates a new, in this case, we create a new text file. We didn't have a temp directory, so we could have actually just created the temp directory and then saved the file there. Get event log will retrieve a Windows event log. So get event log, log name system newest 10. Super useful if you're just trying to gather limited information or specific information about stuff going on in the event log. We can also do a get content. So get content new file.txt. It's going to output nothing because we didn't actually write anything to it. And then you can do test connection google.com, which will test our actual connection to Google. And let's clear that. And then open up our CMD or our Windows command prompt. And we can list our current directory. So I'm just going to clear that on CLS. You can always cd Windows system 32. Whoops. We'll go dir interrupt CLS to clear the screen. If we want to copy something, we can always just copy. So let's cd list the directory. And if we wanted to cp new file.txt and oh, sorry, copy. Access denied, no. Other commands you can use from command prompt would be move, del to delete, we do not have permission because we're on an elevated command prompt. We're going to keep on running into those problems, so let's go CMD. Run as administrator. List. Let's make a directory here for temp. Let's list our directory again. Let's go cp new file.txt to our directory there. So it would be temp. Copy. Now let's move new file.txt over to, and then we're going to go yes. Let's list the directory again just to make sure it's back here. Let's delete new file.txt. And let's list the directory again. We want to remove the directory. Let's do that next. rm dir and let's list again. And then if we want to check our IPs, ipconfig, and there's all our IP addresses. If we need a ping, we can also ping google.com, trace route, google.com. Whoops, I spelled trace wrong. If we need to, we can also see our task list. Whoops. Task list. Gonna interrupt that too. Okay, so let's just review some of these commands here because I went through them pretty quickly. So with our delete, obviously deletes files. mkdir creates a new directory or folder wherever we say we want it. Our mdir with those switches removes the folder directory and its contents without confirmation. Our ipconfig will show us all of the IPs. If we needed to know more information about it though, ipconfig all, it'll give us even more network information. Pinging just sends a ping to test our connectivity to google.com, and we've got our task list, which will list all running tasks on the system. Let's go shut down st0, and then our system's going to shut down pretty much immediately. Now, we probably want to play around with our Mac a little bit here too, so let's go ls documents. Yes, we do want to allow it. I don't have anything in the documents folder. cd applications, let's list pwd print working directory. Other commands that you're familiar with already are cp, mv, rm, chmod, and open. We've also got defaults. So let's go defaults. Write com dot apple dot finder apple show all files. Yes. It should read and write macOS system file preferences. This one makes Finder show its hidden files. And we also have display or PS2 display. So I'm just going to read through all of these for you, or list off all of them for you. So ls, again, list directory contents. So it'll list all files. And if we use ls/la, it'll list all files, including the hidden ones. Change directory or cd changes the current directory to wherever you want to. Prints pwd print working directory will print the full path of the current directory your terminal or shell is sitting in. Your cp copies files. mv will move files or rename files. rm removes files or directories. chmod will allow you to change your file permissions. Open will open applications, files, or directories. Defaults will allow you to read and write your system preferences. And then your PS will list all the processes. If you want to filter, you can use the grep command. So that's it for our